Hello and welcome to the Daily Royal. My name is Shelby and I have been a royal watcher for the past 10 years. In this podcast, I talk about the daily events of 7 of the European monarchies. So I talk about Belgium, the UK, Denmark, the Netherlands, Norway, Spain, and Sweden. I upload Monday through Friday with occasional bonus episodes here and there. Today we are going to be talking about all of the events from Thursday, May 27th of 2021. I'm going to give myself a huge pat on the back because we made it. Today was another day where I was just like, I really don't feel like recording, but I'm just going to push through and do it because once I start, then it'll get easier and we'll pick it up and go. It'll be totally fine. Which it kind of is. So that's what we're doing. Today it was kind of busy for a Thursday, and I wanted to just give like a heads up. There could be an additional episode that comes out on Sunday. There may not be either. It really just depends on how busy the next 2 days are. So I know Saturday has a potential to be like mildly busy. I'm just not entirely sure what tomorrow looks like. So if tomorrow is really busy, then I will probably do an episode recording on Saturday night. Potentially. It all just depends. I thought about doing that last week and ended up not needing to, so hopefully I don't need to again this week. But we will see. So anyway, that's kind of a little bit about what's going on. So today, like I said, was just kind of busy with something in the majority of the countries and like things to talk a lot about. So we're just going to jump right in and start with the Belgian royal family. In Belgium, there were a grand total of 3 events, but not a ton of them can be elaborated on. One of them can, but not all of them. So, the first thing that happened is today King Felipe held a meeting with the European Commissioner responsible for justice. So they held a meeting together. And again, this happens a lot. He'll meet with EU commissioners because of the EU headquarters proximity to Brussels, aka it's in Brussels. So this happens pretty often. I know this has been happening quite a bit. So that was the event for him today. And then also today, Queen Mathilde visited an organic market called The Barn in English. Like it's called The Barn in English, which is really exciting for me. And the focus was on organic farming, as well as creating affordable, healthy food. So I don't know if you guys have ever experienced this. And also it's like somewhat of a myth. It's not a complete myth, but you can find reasonably priced healthy food if you look. It's just not always the most easy thing to do. So, but you know how like you feel like, oh, I'm going to start eating differently. And then you go to the grocery store and spend like a ton of money, right? And so how do you make good food but affordable? And so that was the focus of the discussion. I thought it was really cool. And then yet again, Queen Mathilde was present for the 4th night of the Queen Elizabeth music competition. So it's the 4th night of the finals. I think she was solo again. I only saw Cut to the Box like twice and they only focused on her. So I'm assuming that means she was alone. There are 2 more nights, so there are a total of 6 final performances. And then I'm not sure what happens after that. So I don't know if like a winner is announced on Saturday or if they announce a winner on Sunday. Like I'm not entirely sure. So we'll see what happens there. Next year I will be much more prepared. I think I said that last night. So that is what was going on in Belgium. And now we are going to go ahead and move on to the UK. In the UK, we had a couple of events, of course. So we'll start with the Prince of Wales and Duchess of Cornwall, who visited the town. It was Clapham Old Town. So this is, I guess, obviously like an older town. And they were there visiting the lots of different locations on the high street, which a high street in the UK, if you don't know, is kind of like Main Street, USA. That's a Disney thing, right? I literally have no interest in Disney, World, Land, whatever. What I mean when I say Main Street, USA is like the main drag in a town that has, like a smaller town that has the restaurant and the things on it. So that's what High Street is in the UK, and it's of course especially common in smaller towns and such. So that is what they were doing. They stopped in. I'm so sorry. I've had to stop and start this segment like 3 different times. I have neighbors who have a child who cries a lot, and like I don't always I've literally never recorded in my living room since I moved here, but I am tonight, or I'm trying to. I don't know how long it's gonna last. And they just keep coming in and like yelling at like in the hallway of my apartment complex, and it's super annoying. Like super annoying. So I'm super distracted. Okay, so while they were there, they visited the local pub, a restaurant, the fire station, and just lots of different attractions. I think there's like a local nightclub or something in there as well. I don't know, they just were like on the high street visiting and stopping in basically everywhere, which was really cool. So that was their day. And then today was also the final day of the Duke and Duchess of Cambridge's visit to Scotland, I think, at least. So they started their day visiting a local park in Edinburgh, with an organization that's focused on creating like green spaces and cities. And there were local children there taking part. They were planting. I don't know I think they were planting mostly like garden things like flowers and maybe some vegetables or something. So that was what they did first. Then they visited the Craig Lockhart Tennis Center with the Lawn and Tennis Association, which is the Duchess of Cambridge's patronage. And then there was something, but we're going to talk about that separately. And so then finally they attended the closing of the General Assembly for the closing session for the Church of Scotland's General Assembly, which is the whole reason they were there. And William talked about the experiences and the conversations they have had over the past couple of days, or really it's been a week. And so here's the thing that I really want to talk about today. Like, I loved St. Andrews yesterday, and I thought today was fine. And it wasn't until this last thing came out that I was like, oh, now I'm like, kind of don't want this tour to end. Like, it's been lovely. So a while back, we talked about a phone call that was released between the Duchess of Cambridge and a little girl named Mila, who is 4. All about the hold still photo in the final 100 of the hold still competition. So Mila has leukemia, and they talked about on the phone that when they met, they would wear their pretty pink princess dresses. And I was not aware that Mila lived in Scotland. I missed that somehow, but she does. And so today, they met in pretty pink princess dresses. I mean, Kate's was like a normal, like, midi dress, but still, it was pink and perfect. And the reason I'm talking about this separately is because, like, it's so precious. It's like its own little thing that just happened to be during the visit to Scotland, because come on. So Mila came in and she had a little, like, you know, kid tiara thing, and it was adorable, and they met, and it was just so precious. Like, I loved every minute of it. And the pink dress, like, I knew that when they would meet, of course Kate was gonna wear pink, like, I knew that. But it was so much better than I could have imagined. I was so happy. Mila was mostly obsessed with twirling in her dress, so that's a thing I did. Like, anytime I would have to wear a dress, it had to have what we called in my household the twirl factor. Like, it had to bubble out a little bit when you spun, because that's really fun. Even some of, like, my high school dresses had to have it. Like, I'm like, no, you still need to twirl. Like, I might be a teenager, but we still need to twirl every now and then. So that was my favorite. And then afterwards, you know, they interviewed her, like, her and her family. So it was her mom, her dad, and her older sister. And they interviewed them, and really Mila was just twirling, and, like, then she started doing some gymnastics, and then she was ready to go. So that was just really entertaining. And then I have assumed that this was, like, the end of it, right? Like, they were done, they were leaving, they were not never gonna see each other again, but kind of. Well, then there was, like, the closing ceremony, and then after that there was I want to get the name of this right, so I'm actually going to look it up. So they attended the beating retreat by the massed pipes and drums of the combined cadet force in Scotland. So a retreat is when things are over, you play a retreat or a reveille to mark the end of something, and so that's what they were doing. They were concluding the Scotland General Assembly and their tour, essentially. And they had the special guest of Mila and her family, and it was precious. So that was the wonderful event in Scotland today, which, like, how can you not talk about? So anyway, that is what was going on in the UK. I have not looked at the court circular. I suppose I should do that if it's up. I've noticed it's been kind of delayed this week, so I don't know. I'm recording kind of early. So let's just take a look. May 27th. Hey, look, it updated on time. Okay, so those are everything that was going on, which is perfect. I love when things like that happen. Okay, so with that, we are going to move on to the Netherlands. In the Netherlands today, there was one event, but it was like an all-day thing. So for the first time in, I think, like 8 months, King Willem-Alexander and Queen Maxima took on a regional visit. So I think it was normal for them to do this like frequently pre-pandemic, except here's how like their 2020 goes. They are basically on vacation for like the first 2 months, and then they went on a state visit in beginning of March of 2020, right when the pandemic was starting, and then they came home, and then the Netherlands went into lockdown. Like, they were home for maybe a day. So the first regional visit that I have covered as the host of this podcast was in September, I think, and it was fine and lovely, but I think I enjoyed this one more. So anyway, today they visited the region of North Limburg, where they focused on visiting 3 of the municipalities. So in the first municipality, they visited like what I'm calling kind of a health fair, which was set up so they could go kind of table to table to discuss different kind of the cyclical effects of healthy food and agricultural practices on our physical health. So like those things are all kind of part of a cycle, which is cool. So that was their first event, and then they visited a local theater rehearsal in their second municipality. So that was obviously to focus on the importance of culture, and a way to establish a safe COVID environment for experiencing something like that. And then they visited the national park in the region, where I don't know how much they walked around. It was really rainy today and apparently really cold, from what it looked like. Like, Maxima looked really cold, so I don't think they walked around a ton, but they were there obviously exploring like local nature. And then they also took part in a couple of different roundtable discussions focused on mental health, focused on one, mental health in young people, and then the second roundtable was focused on mental health and like the stigma around it. So that was the day. I thought it was really, really cool. I do think, like, you know, we've gotten so much coverage, and this is where things are a little bit harder when you're covering all of the royal families and not just the British. You know, we've had 6 days of Scotland visits, and I've gotten every single detail, like, down to the minute kind of detail, like lunches and things like that. Like, I don't need to know that. Whereas following foreign royals where you don't speak the language, you don't get all those details. I did just find like a resource to use today for the Dutch royal family, but I will implement that starting next week or next month, because really it's the same. So I didn't do that today, but starting next week, I will be able to implement that discovery in. I hope that works out for me. I'm not sure if it will, but we'll see. I will keep you posted, of course. So those are like basically the things I pulled directly from the Dutch Royal House's website, because I found that in substitute of a good article that gives you like all the minute details, or royal reporters who are on Twitter, like, this is what I have found to be the best substitute, is using royal household, like, information. With the Duke and Duchess of Cambridge and, like, Clarence House, I really don't. I mean, I rely on some of their social media posts, but I also follow, like, journalists, and I can Google their name, and, like, 6 articles about their event will come up from U.S. papers and English, like, British tabloids and all of it. Like, anyway, it's a whole thing. So that is what was going on with the Dutch royal family today. We are skipping Norway, so the only thing that happened in Norway today was the weekly meeting between King Harald and the foreign minister, and I do think that Queen Sonja and Crown Prince Akun were also present, but let me take a look. Ugh, they took it off this official. Now I have to search for it. It was there earlier. Okay. Oh, well, I'm so glad I looked. So there was actually an event today, but let me cover that one first. The one I was already talking about. So where did it go? Oh my goodness, what's happening? You guys, I think I'm losing my mind a little bit. There we go. Okay, so yeah, Queen Sonja and Crown Prince Akun were also present with the meeting with the foreign minister. But then also today, you guys, I'm so glad I looked. There are things that I'm missing that haven't been on their homepage and haven't been on the program archive until today. Like there was something yesterday. It's fine. Okay. So today, Crown Prince Akun and Crown Princess Mette Marit met with some of the survivors of the terrorist attack that happened in Norway on July 22nd of 2011. It was really terrible, and they didn't share anything about the meeting, and I think they did something like this earlier in the week or like last week. So if they ever compile things together, which I'm sure they will because it's a 10-year anniversary of that, then we'll talk more about it. But I know we're still in the Dutch segment, so we're still going to go ahead and move on to Spain because those things didn't have a ton of information. So let's go ahead and move on to the Spanish royal family. In Spain today, King Felipe had two military-related events. So he started by visiting I'm calling it like a training field because it's where training exercises take place for one of the brigades of the Legion, which is a branch. Like it's similar to like the Navy SEALs, where like it's its own unit within it's within the army though, and they are like revered in Spain. I haven't quite figured out why, but they are, and they have a goat as a mascot, which is really fun. And they march really, really fast, which we'll talk about on Saturday because they'll be, I'm assuming, in the parade, military parade thing. So anyway, so he visited their training camp I think it's in Andalusia, just focused on the work they are doing. They are part of the NATO like combined forces, so that of course means that they are collaborating with other countries, although it did seem like only Spanish soldiers were participating, which could be because it's in Spain. So yeah, and we're in the middle of a pandemic, so like let's not do a lot of combined training missions unless we need to. Okay, so that was his first part of the day, and then in the second part of the day he visited what is translated to the Army or the Training and Doctrine Command Center, also I believe in Andalusia. It was in Granada, so that's Andalusia, for the Army. So I'm assuming this is like an education, kind of like, not necessarily like a basic training kind of thing, but also kind of, where you get the educative piece of joining the Spanish Army. So those were his two events today. I'm just gonna like briefly just say this because I don't think I've ever noticed it until today. His hat, like, so he has a blue beret that he will wear on certain things like this, like when he's previously gone to Iraq and Afghanistan. So he's worn his like special commander-in-chief beret, which also has like his seal on it, and then whatever his military, like, he obviously has his own like chief commander military rank thing, and so it also has that, but it also has the seal that's like on his royal insignia and everything, which I find, what do they call those, like his coat of arms? Yeah, it's his coat of arms, which I don't think I've ever noticed him having that before, but I also am not sure of the last time I saw him in this uniform. But anyway, just like, there's my little detail, right? We're always commenting on women's fashion. So, every now and then. And I only comment on his military fashion because I don't know why. Okay, so that is what was going on in Spain. And then there were just a couple of meetings in Sweden, so we're not going to go like into a whole segment about them. But so today, King Carl Gustaf, Crown Princess Victoria, and Prince Daniel took part in a digital meeting focused on the civil defense. Also involved was Prince Carl Philip. And then Crown Princess Victoria took part in a digital meeting with the Secretary General of Radio Aid. No idea, no explanation on either of those. There was a picture of the conversation with the civil defense, but that was it. Not a whole lot of descriptive information. So that is what was going on in Sweden. That brings us to the end of the week. I will probably record on Sunday, so I will most likely talk to you again on Monday. If I don't, I will talk to you on Sunday if things are really crazy this weekend, but I'm hoping for a calmer weekend on the royal side, so I can have a busier weekend on the personal side. So we'll see how that goes. So with all of that, I will talk to you all next week. Have a fantastic weekend, and I will talk to you all on Monday. Bye.